Gosh, it's been a really interesting week, hasn't it? Interesting couple of weeks. We've managed to pin down 4 people who we have met in our personal journeys, who have inspired us and who we wanted to share with the Rock My Age audience. And I just wanted to kind of spend a moment just kind of thinking what we took away from each of these amazing women. So I think last week you interviewed Anita, and I just wanted to get your thoughts first of all on what really stood out for you in Anita's interview.
Yeah, so Anita Brightly-Hodges, I thought was fantastic in terms of the sort of soul and groundedness of what she was saying, but also her experience in business. I think the idea of guardian angels, she talked a lot about those people when you set up a business or running a business. Guardian angels, people who can be your advocates, people who are there in the background supporting you. I thought it was really important that we're not all in this on our own. Having run a business myself and started a few businesses on my own, I think sometimes it can be quite lonely. I think business in any way can sometimes be lonely. So I thought that was really important. I loved her idea of business as personal, the idea of know me, like me, trust me. If you get those right, then actually business will follow, because business is all about relationships, which I thought was really great. I also loved her analogy of the swan. We talked about, when you're running a business, you can look to all intents and purposes from the outside, but it's all going beautifully and everything's successful. But below the waterline, you're kind of, paddling around like a mad swan. I thought that was great, because that really does set a sense of, it's sometimes tough times in business. And actually, she beautifully articulated the idea of when she was going through really tough times and lost everything. And she talked a lot about her identity being very much wrapped up in her business world. But actually at that moment, she had the opportunity to go to Uganda and give back and to create some wells, which she's now started to do as a charity and a foundation, got all her family involved. And that idea of giving back at that moment when it was really tough, and the idea of her contributing and that other people were in tougher times than her, really helped her get out of that. So I thought those were, for me, the 3 things. I think, and lastly, and it's something I think, Debbie, that you've been very focused on with clients in the last few weeks, this idea of the breath, breathe, stand back, take time, slow things down, allows you to have more presence and to be able to see more from the outside. When you get stuck into things yourself, very inward focused, it's hard to see the bigger picture. I think that idea of taking time and the breath, I love that saying, how we breathe is how we live. So if we're very shallow breathing and very fast, it's, that's how we actually may live our life. Because if we take that time, slow, calm down, and breathe in that way, then actually our life may follow that. We may be more conscious in our decisions. So for me, that really linked to a lot of the work I think that you're doing, and we're seeing a lot of women are really needing that support at the moment. So I don't know, have you found that?
So it's really interesting, because actually, as I've spent for 20 years working in performance and media, and actually it is probably the number one thing that makes the difference which turns a kind of an ordinary performance into that real kind of authentic, powerful place where people really want to listen to you. And it is that idea of presence. And I think Anita did cover that so beautifully. And about everything you do, everything you think, and everything you do, being really clear where your boundaries are and who you are in this. And I think once you can switch that on, so you're not going out trying to impress people, but you're incredibly clear about what you want out of life and how you want to live your life, hopefully in a good, integrous kind of way. But I think that is what gives people that magic and power, and also leads to better mental health and better happiness. There's quite a lot of research out there to say that well, giving back is a real big factor. You know, even if you are giving back because you want to make yourself happier, but doing something that helps other people leads to much, much better, better quality of life, and makes you happier, which is, I think that's a really fascinating idea. But yeah, so the other person I spoke to earlier was Sue Wood, who is just a kind of magical person full of soul and wisdom, and I was so delighted to be able to share her with everybody. And for me, the real things that, I mean, I've listened to Sue for kind of, I think it's 10 years. So, and she is one of the wisest people I know. And she really walks the talk. She really lives a really good life. And according to everything she teaches through Tai Chi and yoga, she's very interested in Buddhism, and she really walks the talk, which makes her really easy to listen to, and really wanting to know what she thinks about various things. But and again, she has that idea of how we're using our energy, and about being very thoughtful about, and if we're putting all our energy out there and, you know, flitting around like a butterfly, seeing this bit, and we're never going to be able to really kind of live our true selves. And I thought that was lovely what she was saying about that need to be really careful everything you're putting into your body, from what you're eating to your thoughts, to the words you use, being really mindful of absolutely everything, and how that starts to build a real kind of self-confidence and a real inner resilience to be able to deal with all the difficulties that come up in the world. So what were your takeouts from Sue?
Yeah, and I've had the opportunity, thank you, working with Sue the last couple of weeks. And there were two things that I've learned from her which linked to what she said in the interview. I think this idea of where you put your focus, your energy follows. So I've been working a lot with Sue on intention at the moment, and the idea of intention, which is a very strong piece around Tai Chi and Qigong. And I'm very interested in this idea of where we place intention. We're not always, I think, that mindful of what, you know, every time we do something, is there an intention? And are we clear on that? Whether that's a business, whether that's something in our personal lives. The other thing that you're talking about there, Debbie, you know, linked to this sort of sense of well-being, while we're doing a lot of sitting, you know, a lot of us are on Zoom calls, etc. And I've recently been struggling a little bit with what they call acid reflux. And when the stomach is contracted, when we sit a lot, that doesn't help. And that's very interesting about this idea of movement. And Sue is, with particular Tai Chi and Qigong, keeping the body moving, which of course, when we're sitting all day in meetings and on Zoom and things like that, actually to get up every hour and to do some movements, to move the body, is actually going to be really important for our well-being and physical health particularly. We're going to cover, I think, more about that on our website and other pieces, but those are the two pieces for me. I think the intention, the idea of movement, and really storing that energy and having that energy available to us.
Yeah, it's interesting around that movement thing. I broke my back when I was about 26, and in those days they would say you needed to stay completely still. You went into traction. And it just seems so counterintuitive to me, having a background in dance and movement, and being so interested in body movement and knowing how much better I feel. And now, of course, it's completely changed. The guidance is to get moving as quickly as possible, and to making sure that you're moving, particularly your spine, when we're all kind of over like this on computers, but moving your spine in all those ways it needs to move to keep it healthy. And that's why I think yoga is so brilliant in all of the movements, being focused on moving the spine in that way. Because if the spine's not healthy, the rest of the body is not going to follow. So just such an important part. So on that, we had Paula.
Yes, movement was a big part of Paula's, actually I thought was amazing, was a big part of Paula's healing, wasn't it? So that was an amazing interview.
Yeah. So Paula really interests me because she her big career change from being a tabloid journalist into kind of a much more kind of holistic way of living is I find fascinating. But Paula, for me, is somebody who had that really difficult time. Breast cancer just seems to be such a big issue for women, and, you know, certainly in midlife, and some younger as well. But but not letting that define her, just really thinking, actually, I've been given a chance now, and I know how precious my life is, and how am I going to spend my life now? And really making those kind of conscious decisions for well-being and happiness. And then taking out, again, this idea of giving back, which is so close to my heart, that actually going out there and thinking, how can I now use my experience to help other people? And she runs these amazing retreats, these recharge retreats for people, all about people who are going through lots of different things, whether they've got a physical injury or something's happened that's been challenging in their life. How you kind of, again, make yourself as healthy as you possibly can in the mind, the body and the spirit, and getting out there, really making your life count again after difficult things. And I always love talking to Paula, and to hear about that, the work she does with young people as well, really empowering teenagers particularly to use PT, to use body work, to get more confident, and to deal with all the enormous challenges of being adolescents. So she's always great value to hear from.
I think it links to, I think when we're listening to these women, and what's exciting is the women that we're going to be interviewing over, you know, the next weeks, months. That all these women are doing such incredible things. And it was interesting that Anita, I think, said in her interview.
So Anita, we're hearing from next week, aren't we?
No, Anita Brightly, who, as I was saying at the beginning, no, I just said that Anita, what I thought was interesting was that she said, you know, it's wonderful that we're all doing things, and Anita's starting a women's platform, we're doing Rock Age, but not enough women are necessarily stepping up. And I think that's always been quite hard for women to find a voice, particularly maybe in business. Yes, absolutely. Belinda Plant next week, who we're going to be talking to, we've got an interview with her already, which you and I have seen. And that wonderful piece from her about finding her voice. And it's taken her a long time into her 60s to really find her voice, that real sense of self-belief. And also that she is now translating that into, again, working with young women, which I think is brilliant. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with all of our followers as well. But I think that there is a thread through all of this, I think, which is this idea of self-belief. Finding our space and our place in the world, having that sense of purpose and meaning at this age, and also then that ability to give back and share. And I think all of those women, and I think to absolutely to us as well, has got those threads running through them. I don't know how you feel.
Well, I think really interesting, actually, because I think you get to a certain point in your life and you think, I know how to do it all now, I'm sorted. And this week particularly, I do spend a lot of time writing and journaling and trying to capture, you know, because I think, as my grandmother always used to say, see people as a inspiration or a warning, and really kind of understanding. And I think that helps. Interacting with other people helps you understand where you want to be. And so I gave myself a big challenge this week, because I thought, actually, yes, I understand presence. I know that idea of when things get difficult, breathing, stopping, responding, not reacting. And then I thought, actually, do I really do this? And there's one particular situation that I was in, and thinking, actually, I'm doing all of the things that I tell other people not to do. So I think this is lifelong learning, isn't it? It's really about challenging yourself at each stage of, if you're into this idea of personal development, which I think we both desperately are. Maybe desperately is the wrong word, but we find it very much part of living a full life, of of learning and developing ourselves. And certainly for me, that idea of trying to see where I can be a good person in the world, without that sounding too trite, but you know, what can, rather than maybe when we were younger setting up thinking, yeah, we've got to buy the house, buy the, you know, get the best car and do all those driven things, start the business, sell the business. And I think that idea of stepping back and actually saying, I don't need any more. I'm done. So how do I now, what does my life now look like? And how can I play the best possible role in the period that I've got left? And actually Belle, who we're going to be hearing from next week, she was wonderful, saying that, you know, she's 66, but, you know, she sees life a lot left after now. And how do you really make that count? And I think that's a fascinating idea, isn't it? How we, as older women, how we keep on learning and keep really humble as well, because we don't have all the answers.
Absolutely not. I think Anita said that, didn't she, at the end of her interview? She said, you know, 60 is the new 40, darling. And I know everyone agrees with when we get older, things, you know, so we have tough times, but I think the idea of having a focus and energy and having a sense of health and well-being to support that is absolutely critical right now. So,
and also I think it's one of the drivers of why we've done this, is that group of other women that you surround yourself with, and men obviously, and really important to say that obviously we all have lovely, gorgeous men in our lives, but our focus being about women and how we all support each other, and just how valuable that is. And one of the best things I've ever done in my life is invest in lifelong friendships. Because they just it's one of the richest things, I think, that takes you through life, and also meeting new friends now is just an amazing, and makes life really worthwhile again. So we're going to be looking for other women now that we're going to be talking to. And obviously, if anyone else has people out there that they think would make a really good story, that would be great to hear from them, wouldn't it?
Would, absolutely. It'd be lovely to hear from people who are doing different things in life, whatever that is. I think it would be great, that are showing up, living their life to the full. I think that would be great to hear from them.
And then we've obviously got some really exciting news for next week, which we're hoping to launch our platform, which we will be telling everyone more about as well.
Yes, the website should be up next week. We're exciting, so we'll be sharing all of that.
Okay. Excellent. So I shall see you later.
Yes, thanks, Debbie. Fun as always.
Yeah, the best bits.